everyone. I want to welcome you to the Bellingham City Council Public Works Public Safety Committee. Joining me on the committee is Michael Lillquist and Roxanne Murphy. We have two items before us today, and the first is an ordinance of the City of Bellingham adopting a transportation impact fee base rate and rate schedule for 2016. Ted.
Thank you. Good morning. Ted Carlson, Public Works Department. Each year, as required by the Bellingham Municipal Code, we need to adopt our base rate for our transportation impact fees. We have a formula to do that. That's also spelled out in the code. That looks at our previous transportation expenditures in the 5 previous years, local money only. We don't include state or federal grants in that calculation. We then look at the local money spent in the current construction year, so 2015, and then we look forward to the 6 years identified in the 6-year TIP. So it's a 12-year comparison of transportation funds spent on traffic projects, transportation projects. We then revert back to a study that was done in 2006 that identified the percent of capacity that is attributed to new development. So we go through that analysis and come up with the proportionate fair share of new development for the trips that they create and the amount of capacity that those trips use, and identify the base rate that developers pay for new development. We have a slight increase in the base rate this year. It's been very steady over the last 8 years or so. It's been not a lot of fluctuation. In fact, it was at a high point back in 2010, and it has been steady and slightly decreasing until this year when we've had our first real increase. So the base rate was last year was $1,869, or this year, 2015, and it will be going to $2,017 in 2016. And that base rate is what we use as a starting point, and then when we look at development that occurs in areas that the City Council policies have identified where we'd like to see growth in the urban villages, then we have an incentive program that works off that base rate to reduce the impact fee down for qualifying projects to as much as a 50% reduction. So we are very competitive. There's some information in your packet that shows how our rate compares to jurisdictions in Whatcom County and also in Western Washington. And Chris Como is here to answer any detailed questions you may have, but staff recommends that we adopt the rate and move forward.
Okay. Committee, any questions? Yes, Roxanne.
Well, then I'll just move that we adopt the ordinance for a transportation impact fee base rate for 2016.
Michael.
Yeah, I agree. I do have one small question. You mentioned the 2006 study where we determined what you call the fair share, which is a hair over 50%. We can revise that in this comp plan update?
We are. That's a good question, and thank you for asking it. We do plan, as part of this comprehensive plan update, revisiting that DEA. That was the engineer. David Evans was the engineering consultant that helped us with that. We do plan on updating that. So part of that is waiting for the comp plan and the capital projects identified in the 20-year plan to 20-year look forward of the transportation element to be identified. Then we'll hire a consultant and revisit that DEA study. And you're right, it was just over 50%, 50.2%. That was of the total capacity that was attributed to new growth. And we need to revisit that with the update of the comp plan.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. We have a motion before us. All those in favor of the motion, answer aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We will recommend approval tonight. The next item is a bid award for water treatment plant pre-treatment project. Ted?
Yes, thank you. So this is an item associated with the pre-treatment at the water treatment plant, and something that we've done previously for this project is do early procurement where we buy equipment associated with the capital project prior to actually starting the project. It facilitates design. The treatment plant upgrade is at about 60% design now. We previously procured some equipment associated with the DAF, the dissolved air flotation equipment, and this item before council today is associated with the hypochlorite system, which is the replacement for the current chlorine gas system that we use for disinfectant. It's also a little bit different in that for this particular bid item, we asked the contractor to submit a price for the total life cycle cost of the equipment. So they included both the capital cost of the equipment, the upfront cost, but also looking at the ongoing life cycle cost, including operational costs associated with things like energy consumption and then maintenance costs associated with repair and replacement of the system over time. Eric Johnson is here and he can answer much more detailed questions about that than I can, but the low bidder before you today was actually the low bidder for both the capital component and the total life cycle cost. And staff is recommending that we award bid to the low bidder, and perhaps Eric might talk a little bit more about the process and why we're doing early procurement and why we selected this method.
Thanks, Ted. Eric Johnston, Public Works. So there's two things that we've done for this project to do early procurement. One is the equipment on the pretreatment dissolved air flotation system, as well as the hypochlorite. We're doing that because that helps drive the design. This is the design is really equipment driven. So by choosing the equipment before we get the final design, that allows us to put a good product on the street. We hope at a lower cost. We're actually not physically buying the equipment. We're reserving that contract, and we'll assign that purchase to the contractor when that goes out to bid. But it's a method to keep us on track, on schedule, and try to control our costs. But even probably more importantly is this is reflective of our approach toward a good asset management system for the city and buying products that are of good value over the long term and not just the low bid price. So you see that reflected in how this product was selected based on not only how much it costs to buy today, but what it costs to operate and maintain over the next 20 years.
Okay. Michael, you had a question.
I don't have a question, actually. I want to really praise you for doing those two things, which I think are, very intelligent. One is, as you say, if there's significant technical features that need to be purchased or reserved ahead of time, do that to save money. And then the other thing is this life cycle costing. I'm just kind of wondering, more generally speaking, can we apply that more broadly in more places? And what is the legality of accepting the lowest responsible bid, not on purchase, but on, say, life cycle costs, which are kind of estimates out in the future? I mean, I really think this is an intelligent way to go. I'm just wondering how much further can we go with other projects similarly?
I think from a policy perspective, the department is really trying to implement those principles of asset management in our decision-making process, not just on procurement, but just our total approach to running the department. Approaching it from a risk-based perspective and an asset management life cycle cost perspective helps us make those decisions. The legality of picking the low bidder is a complicated subject that is not easy to answer, but certainly our thinking is geared towards making those decisions on the long term and not just the cheapest price today.
Great. Well, I'll go ahead and move. We recommend awarding this bid tonight.
Great. Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion before us. All those in favor, answer aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will recommend approval tonight. Yes, Ted.
Sorry, Terry, if you allow me just one brief announcement
Oh,
while we
yes.
have the
We
committee
got a
here in
lot
some
of time.
I did want to introduce Amy Cloud. She's sitting back here. She is our new Public Works Community and Outreach Coordinator. We're very thankful to have her. She comes to us from Peace Health. She's also worked with Western Washington University in the past and was a reporter prior to that. So she has excellent experience, very relevant to what we do. So we're excited to have her on board helping us with all of our public works outreach and working and coordinating with other departments and obviously keeping the city council informed.
That is great, because Amy has been around the City Hall on and off for a long time, and I think many of us know her, and she knows the community. I think that's a great pick. All right.
Thank you.
Welcome, Amy. Okay, end of committee.